Yeah. Morning. We're learning as Chusper for Shlema Filan Chaya Basarach. We're on Daf Nun Hey Amud Aleph by the Mishnah, right by the first wide line. Hatoida v'ayil not nazir, the toida, which is a carbon that you bring when someone has to thank Hashem. You know, the same things that we say Birchas HaGaimel for. You're supposed to bring a carbon, which is a shlomim it's in the form of a shlomim, accompanied by 40 loaves that we were talking about, 10 of each different kind. Ba'ayil nazir, when a nazir reaches the end of his naziris, he has to bring 3 karbanos. He brings I think an oila and a asham and a shlamim. So the shlamim that the ayil nazir bring, that the nazir brings is an ayil. Those are all kachim kalam. And shchitasa b'chal makam ba'azara, they can be brought, they can be slaughtered any place in the azara. But nabantan, unlike the kachim that had to be only in the north side of the azara. But damantan shtei matana shein arba, you need to do, like we've described before, we had the 2 shitas. He has to do it on 2 of the 4 corners. He has to be zayrik the dam, and either it means one zrik on each side of the corner, or else like the shape of a gamma, like a L shape. It could be eaten by any in the entire city of Yerushalayim, to any person, and cooked in any way, for 1 day and 1 night, ad chatzais, until the chatzais, the chachamim, the midrabanan, they restricted it. It can't go till to the whole night. They have to be finished by chatzais. Hamayra mehem, the trumas that go to the kayin. It means even though this is nechal by the bailim, but there's the chazeh v'shoik that go to the kayin. There's the same restrictions on the kehanim, meaning that they could eat it also anywhere in Yerushalayim. They could eat it. It's different than the other matanas of the kachim that are only eaten by the kehanim themselves in the azara. These are eaten by the kehanim as well as their whole family. Tan Rabban. So now we're going to explain, where do we know that shchitas b'chol makom ba'azar? The Torah says that the part that was taken off from the shlomim that was brought during, I think this is talking about during the miluim, the special code, the days of chinuch when they opened the Mishkan. So it says that the part that was given to Aaron and his sons, which was, we just said, has the same din as all the meat. It says teichlu b'makom tar. You should eat it in a makom tar. Amrav Nechemi because Yishayim b'toma achlum was saying that this could be eaten b'makom tar. Does it mean that everything until now was allowed to be eaten in a makom tuma? That's certainly not the case. You now eat kachim b'toma. Elatar, what does it mean b'makom tar? Mechlal shehu tamei. It means that he eats it in a makom tar that also has some aspects of tuma to it. So let's just remind ourselves that there were 3 machnas in the there was a machna shchina where the Mishkan was. There was the machna levia around the machna shchina to the azara. So whatever you're allowed to eat in the machna shchina in the Mishkan, you're allowed to eat in the azara, which we've said is kache. Then there's the machna levia, which is parallel to the. So whatever was allowed to be eaten in the harabayis was allowed to be eaten in the machna levia, and finally machna Yisrael was parallel to the whole city of Yerushalayim, and then there was outside of both of those things. So, and we know that there are certain restrictions. For example, we know that a tamei mace is not allowed to go into the azara, but a tamei mace is allowed to walk around Yerushalayim and on the harabayis. And then the harabayis, a zav is not allowed to go into the harabayis, but they can go all around Yerushalayim. And finally, a Mitzayra is not allowed to go anywhere in Yerushalayim. So those are the different levels of Tumah that are allowed to go in different places. It's not really levels of Tumah per se, right? Because it's not like a Mitzayra is more Tameh than a Tameh Mace. But these are the restrictions on the different levels of Tumah where you're allowed to go. So we say, Ella Tar Mechlal Shu Tameh. So the place that the Torah is telling you that should eat b'makom tar, it's talking about a place that it's tamei for some things, and tar, it's tamei that the certain types of tamah are allowed to go into it, and it's tar that some types of tamah are not allowed to go. Tar min tumas mitzayra. It means it's tar min tumas mitzayra, then a mitzayra is not allowed to go there, which is like we said, a mitzayra is kicked out of all the machnas. So a mitzayra is not allowed to go in Yerushalayim. But tamei mitum zav, but a zav is not allowed to go in Yerushalayim. I'm sorry, tamei a zav is allowed to go in Yerushalayim. He's just not allowed to go into the Machna Leviyah, into the Har Bayis. So this is the Machna Yisrael, which is parallel to Yerushalayim. That's what the Torah is telling you when it says Makom Tar. It means the Machna Yisrael, which is Yerushalayim, where it's tar in the sense that a mitzayra can't be there, but it's tamei that it zav is allowed to go there. It's affecting more of a tar mitum zav, the tamei mitum mace. How do we know it's talking about the Machna Yisrael? That a zav is allowed to go into, maybe it's talking about the Machna Leviyah that the tum zav is not allowed to go to, which is Machna Leviyah is the same as the Har Bayis. The tamei mitum mace, but the tamei mace is allowed to go there. Beis zeh Machna Leviyah. Amrabaya, Amakra, Vachaltam Oisa b'makom kodesh. Oisa b'makom kodesh v'le'acheres b'makom kodesh. We darshan. Abaya says we darshan in the pasuk. The pasuk says that you should eat it. It's talking about a mincha in a makom kodesh, saying that the mincha you can eat in makom kodesh, but the other korban, the shlamim, cannot be eaten in the makom kodesh. So therefore, it's kicking out afkula machna leviyah, saying you can't eat in the machna shechina. It has to be in the machna leviyah. You can eat it in Yerushalayim. I'm sorry, in non-Yerushalayim, in the Har Bayis. Then we also have the pasuk that says b'makom tar. That means that even a little makom tar, it means that it could even be, which means that even though there's a tum in it, that tells you to upgrade it, and not only in the Machna Leviyah, even the Machna Yisrael. So that's Abaya's limit. Rav Amar, oisa b'makom kadosh. We're right in the middle of the wide lines on Nun Hey Amar. Rav Amar oisa b'makom kadosh v'le'acheres b'makom kadosh. We say darshan oisa tells you b'makom kadosh and not another b'makom kadosh. Afka legamri. That would not tell you like Abaya had said that it's coming to tell you that the mincha could be is eaten in a makom kadosh, but the shlamim is in the next one up that it's eaten in the machna leviyah. He says that the mashmais of that is le'acheres b'makom kadosh. That means it has to be fully out. It could be even outside of everything. It doesn't have to be in Yerushalayim. That's what you would think. So how the kasar rachmana toichlu b'makom tar ayla machna Yisrael. When it says toichlu b'makom tar, that tells you that which means even that it has some tameh. That means it could be that pulls it up one step, that it could even be eaten in machna Yisrael, meaning in Yerushalayim, and therefore that's where we leave it. That a kachim kalim could be eaten in Yerushalayim. Why are we saying that when it gets upgraded, that means it could be eaten in Yerushalayim instead of being eaten anywhere? Let's say it's upgraded that it could be eaten even in the Machna Leviyah, even on the Har Bayis. We only upgrade by one, we don't upgrade by two. You don't go two steps at one time. So he says, if that's the case, why did you say b'makom tar means you could eat it anywhere? You should only say b'makom tar is the minimum, which would be machna leviyah. Also, we know that it can't be eaten anywhere because the Torah says you can't eat it b'sharecha. So outside of Yerushalayim, you can't eat it anywhere. You have to. There is some limitation. So this is a refutation of Rava, and we have to go back to Abaya's pshat, that he had started from the other direction and used the steps to tell you that kachim kalim can be in Yerushalayim. Zok the Mishnah, shlamim kachim kalim. So we said in the previous Mishnah, the Toida and the Ayel Nazir are Kachim Kalam. Now we're saying a standard Shlomim is Kachim Kalam. What's its dinner? You could shecht at any place in the Azar. It's not restricted to Tzafin like the Kachim. The Gemara is going to explain where we see that from. The Damanton Shteimat Hanashein Abba needs the Shteimat Hanashein Abba on the bottom of the Mizbech. And Echala B'chala Ir, B'chol Adam, B'chol Meichel. It's again, just like we said in the previous Mishnah, and the Gemara explained where we see it from, that Kachim Kalam could be eaten anywhere in Yerushalayim. It could be eaten by any person. It's not just for Kehanim, and it could be prepared in any way, cooked in any way. L'shnei yamim v'layla echad. The Torah says that Shlomim, you get an extended period in which to eat it. You could eat it for 2 days and 1 night, unlike other kabbanas are for 1 day and 1 night. Hamayr mehem ki yotzeben. And the trumas that go to the kayin, we take the Shaika Truma, Chazayat Shnufa, I think that's what it is. Those things that go to the Kayan, those they have the same restrictions on them. The Kayan could eat them anywhere. And it could be eaten by the family of the Kayan anywhere in Yerushalayim. Zok the Mishnah, Zok the Gemara, Tanu Rabban. We're going to address what the Mishnah said, that unlike Kachay Kachim, that the Shechita is B'tzafin, the Shlomim and Kachay Kalim, Shechitasan is B'chol Makam B'azar. Tanaban, V'shachtu Pesach Hayel Mayit. And it also said, V'shachtu Ois L'fnei Hayel Mayit. V'shachtu Ois L'fnei Hayel Mayit. We have 3 psukim that say this similar phrases that you should shecht by the Pesach of the Hayel Mayit. One is by a standard. The reason why this Gemara was said here and not on the previous Mishnah is because this drasha is coming from a standard Shlomim. I mean, we teach it just for all Kachim Kalim, but the drasha is talking about a regular Shlomim, and there are 3 types of regular Shlomim. You could bring a cow, you could bring a goat, or you could bring a sheep. And the Torah goes through each one, and it says each one brings a different parsha that says each one. And in each one it says, V'shachtu Pesach Hayel Mayid, and then it says, V'shachtu Oisei L'fnei Hayel Mayid, V'shachtu Oisei L'fnei. It says 2 times L'fnei Hayel Mayid, and 1 time it just says V'shachtu Oisei Hayel Mayid, which the Gemara is going to shtel on a little bit later. But in any case, it says you should shecht it by the Pesach of the Hayel Mayid. L'hachsher is kol haruchas b'kachim kalim. It's coming to be machsher that you don't have to shecht it by the tzafon. The Torah says these 3 psukim, as the Gemara is going to proceed to darshan what each one of the 3 psukim is, but included in that is that kachim kalim can be shechted any place in the Azara. Leave that. Well, I'm saying any place in the Azara. We're going to have to learn out all the different parts of the Azara. But we're saying because it says Lefnei Ayol Mayid, the Ayol Mayid is the Heichel, and we're saying in front of that, anything outside of that in the Azara, it's a kosher place for kachkal. And the Gemara says, how do we know that it could be any place? And certainly, if you could do any place in the Azara, it could certainly be in the Tzafon where the Kachay Kalim is. Hukshru b'Tzafon, if Kachay that are restricted, that they can only be in one place. You're not allowed to do it any place else in the Azara. It can only be in the Tzafon of the Mizbeach. Kachay Kalim, shehukshru b'chal aruchas, any din shehukshru b'Tzafon. Certainly the Kachay Kalim can also do it in the Tzafon. They're not restricted from being in the Tzafon. Eliezer disagrees. He turns this Kal Chaymer and said, he says, Aimer, no, we need a pasuk. One of the psukim that we quoted before, he's going to use to tell you that Kachay Kalim is mutter b'tzafon. Because I would have thought that Kachay Kachim is a b'tzafon and Kachay Kalim are not allowed to be there. And the rest of the Zara is Kachay Kalim and not for Kachay Kachim. And I would say, Dinu, Uma Kachim Kalim. That means Kachay Kalim, every place has its place that it's assigned to. And it was assigned to the rest of the Azara. Its place that was assigned for Kachay Kalim are not allowed to be there. Kachay Kachim, which is even more common than Kachay Kalim, that its place that it was assigned to was the tzaf, and certainly the kachikalim cannot be brought in the place of the kache. Now, I don't know how familiar, like if you've gotten used to this, it's a strange concept, right? Because we always say, the way we always look at it is kache kachim, which is the first mandama. Kache kachim is more common than kache kalim. So it has a place that it's restricted to, and the kache kalim is more, it could cover more ground. In addition to the place that kache kachim are brought, it has more options. It's not as restricted because it's more kal. He's looking at it differently, saying, each one has a place assigned to it, and therefore certainly the place that's assigned to kache kachim is restricted, that you can't bring kache kalim in it. So therefore we need a pasuk to tell you not like that. It's certainly no one's saying that this is the maskana. The question is, would you have made the kal v'chayma like this? So that's what we use the pasuk of ta'ayil mayit to tell you not like this. But my comment. So now we're going to say how they darshan these three psukim. And we'll see whether you need a pasuk to tell you that even sofan is kosher for kachikalim. Tanakama sav kra exceed the three psukim that we said before. It says al pesach hayil mayid chad legufa denibaya pesach hayil mayid. One is to tell you the basic thing. First of all, that you need the oil mayid. You need it to be opposite the door of the oil mayid. As the Gemara is going to go into some detail that it's not enough that it's in the Azara. It has to be opposite a door of the oil mayid. And we're going to even say that the door has to be open. It can't be a locked door. It literally has to be that you're shechting inside of the door of the oil mayid, of the open door. And one is to be machshir, even the sides. Meaning, I don't know what kind of picture you have, but the Azara was quite large, and it went around the makam that included the actual Beis Hamikdash, includes the Kodesh Kadashim, followed by the Heichel, and the Ulam, which is a long, thin entranceway to the Heichel, between the Heichel and the Azara. So what we've been talking about till now is the things that the doorway to the Ulam is facing, obviously, the Azara, where the entrance to the Azara is on the eastern side of the Beis Hamikdash, and that's the place where the Mizbeach is, and that's where the Shchitas were. But there's a lot of area around the sides. On the side of the Beis Hamikdash, between the walls of the Beis Hamikdash, I keep saying the Beis Hamikdash, I mean the Kodesh, the Heichel, and the Ulam, and the Kodesh Kadashim, that binyan. There's a lot of sides between that and the outer walls of the Azara. And as well as behind the Kodesh Kadashim, there's also space. So we needed a pasuk to tell you, even though the Pesach Hayal Mayid is in the Ulam, which is facing toward the east, the things all around the Heichel and the Kodesh Kadashim and the Ulam are also part of the Azara, and you could also shach the Kabbanas there. B'chad lifzol tzidei tzad. And one is to tell you, while you can do the tzadin, if there were certain parts that were blocked off, that they were not opposite they were not part of the Azara. There were certain rooms that were coming off the sides. We're going to see later on that even if they were in the Kodesh, in the Azara, if there was this room there, that was not that you were not allowed to shechting there. The tzafan le'itzukra, and this is the Tanakam, he says you don't need a pasuk to tell you bedafka that the tzafan is mutter for kachik kalim. It's a kavah chaimer. If it's mutter for kachik kachim, it's certainly mutter for kachik kalim. Rabbi Eliezer Sover, like we said before, chad legufet nearby pesach hayamayid. He says the first thing the same as the first pshat, that you could do. It has to be opposite the opening to the chad lahachshir tzafan, and one to be machshir tzafan, because he doesn't hold to the kavah chaimer. He holds you need a pasuk to allow tzafan. And one to allow on the sides of the Heichel and the Ulam and the Kodesh Kadashim. And he doesn't need a pasuk to exclude those rooms. Those are what one can understand on their own, that they're not included. Could you learn it out? Yeah. Some lips to light shakra. Yeah, he doesn't need a separate pasuk. So come on. Maishna hacha d'chsev pesach ayil mayid. Like we pointed out, But there are two different lashonis in those three psukim. It says once Pesach Ayil Moed, and the other two times it says Lifnei Ayil Moed. Kamashman could be Yehuda Mishmul. It's coming to Talik of Yehuda Mishmul. The Amar of Yehuda Mishmul. Shlomim sheshachten koydem yifchasu dalfes heichel. A shlomim that was brought before the doors of the heichel were opened. Psulin. The doors have to be open. Shnei avshachtu Pesach Ayil Moed. Bezman shehu pasuch. V'loy bezman shehu no. Because it says Pesach Ayil Moed as opposed to Lifnei Ayil Moed, that tells you it has to literally be open. Or it has to be at least not unlocked. Before they unlock the doors of the Heichel, Psulin, Shenem Shachtu Pesach Ayil Moed, Bezman Pesach Heichel Pasuch, the same day. The Lord is not sure no. The Merava Masni, they said in the west, in the Eretz Yisrael, Hachi. Amar Rav Yaakov Aracha, Amar Rashi, Shlom Shachton Kodim Sheyiv Yiftechu Dalsas Heichel Psulim. The Shlom that was shechted before they unlocked the doors of the Heichel Apostle, of a Mishkan Kodim Sheyamidu Leviyim Es HaMishkan Lach Sheyivku Leviyim Es HaMishkan Psulim. Not, he's saying, it seems almost obvious. He's saying, if you have to have an open door, it has to be that they put up the Mishkan. You can't go shecht. You can't say it's not then that it has to not be locked. It has to actually be a Mishkan with the doors open. So if they hadn't yet put up the Mishkan, you couldn't start shechting the karbanos. So Pshita mugaf kenol dam. It's clear that if the doors are not just unlocked, but they're closed, it's like, even if the doors are unlocked, if they're closed, that's considered the same thing as locked, meaning it needs to be wide open doors. Vilon mai. What's the din if the doors are open, but they put like a privacy screen in front of it? They put a curtain so that people could work in the heichel without being seen by the people outside. Amar Zeru, hu atzmei nasa like a pesach pasuach. Says that's not a problem. This screen is really an open door, and it's just put there for privacy. We can ignore it. Goiva mai. What happens if they would put sometimes like something, as we'll see, 8 amas high, which is, a couple of feet high, just to block it so it's not open, that you could easily go in. They put something in front of the door to block it off. Is that considered closed, that you can't check the front of it? Tashma, so I think you probably have a picture of the way it looked in the Beis HaMikdash. So you have the ulam that extends to both sides. And behind the ulam, on the other side of the entrance into the Azara, there was no Pesach there. And we said you need to have a Pesach in order to be allowed to shech there. So they made 2 small doors on the other side of the ulam, facing the opposite direction. And that area was called the Beis HaChalivas. That's where they stored the knives, chalaf, and the goyven shmeina. And there were these. The Gemara understands now that there were these little mounds or blocks in front of these little doors to block them off, so they shouldn't be open to anyone to go into the ulam. They did put these doors there so that you should be yoyt, so that what you need to have lifnei ayil moed, so it should be mutter to eat there. Lachilas kachay kachim, l'shchitas kachay kachim. So you could shecht kachay kalam there. I'm sorry, not kachay kachim kalam. So my love, they kamayu shmeina. So we said gavaya shmeina. So you see, you're allowed to have in front of something that is needed, that it should be lifnei ayil moed. You can have something 8 tvachim high. It's like the gavaya ninu shmeina. It meant to say that these pishpashim, it's not talking about there was something in front of those pishpashim. When it said Gavaya Shmaina, it meant that those doors were 8 tfachim high. Meisvei, in fact, the Gemara, Kol Sham Shahayusham Gavaya Meser Mama, Berech Meneser Amma. It says we learned in the Mishnah that all of the gates in the Beis HaMikdash were 20 amas high, and 10 amas wide. So what about these doors? How could they be just 8 tfachim? So Bishpashan Shani. He said, no, that's talking about the main gates. This is not a main gate. This was just a mini door. How could we say that by putting a door on the back of the ulam, facing toward the ma'ariv, that every place it's going to matter everything. What about on the sides of the ulam? There's no door facing in that direction. So Gemara, the Ma'ilul B'Karen Zavis. They put it on the corner of the ulam, so that was facing both toward the back and toward the sides. In fact, the Gemara, Achure Beis HaKapiris Mai. What about Beis HaKapiris is a reference to the Kodesh Kadashim that has the Kapiris on top of the Aron. What about the area behind the Kodesh Kadashim? There's no door there. Tashmad, Amaram Bar Yehuda, Amarav, Lul Katan HaYachur Beis HaKapiris Gavaya Shmoina Amas, Dil Hachshir Sazar Al Achilas Kachri Kachim. Ein Chanami, there was a doorway into the back of behind the Kodesh Kadashim to allow for eating of Kachri Kachim there, or l'shchitas kachri kalam, and to allow to shecht kachri kalam there. Behind it said shnayim lepar bar, my lepar bar. What does that mean? There were two par bars. My lepar bar, Amar Rabba bar of Shiloh, Commander Amar klape bar, something facing toward the back, toward the outside. So this was doors facing toward the back. Okay. I'm going to have to stop over here because my alarm's going to go off. I promised my wife I would come home.